I told you already that it explains it with atmospheric law. So what's the answer to my question, Nathan?
What's your question?
Can you show it though?
Hello, what's your question based on sphere-shaped law?
My question was, according to the globe model, with atmospheric law, what's the gas pressure next to the vacuum? In the globe model with atmospheric law.
That contradicts atmospheric law.
We're going round and round in circles, Ed. I've already pointed out that this law cannot be squared because you've got a circle shape for your air. And when I do this, we go round and round in circles with you not conceding that to have a shape in the first place, as per your sphere-shaped air law, you've got a presupposition of sphere-shaped air. Well, what am I going to do? Say, I accept that sphere-shaped air is real to justify your contradiction in terms that violates natural law? No, I'm not going to do that for you, Ed. I mean, it'd be nice if you guys on your side actually gave some arguments for your model, rather than trying to get me to do it for half an hour. Why would you want me to justify a contradiction in terms that violates natural law in your model that we don't live on, when it's not my claim? I mean, this really is the most pathetic attempt ever. Well, you tell me how my model works. Well, your model doesn't work. It's a violation of natural law. We'd be at 10 to the minus 17 torr sea level if the sky was a vacuum because the gas would all off. And you say, well, no, in the model where we assume that doesn't happen, what's the gas pressure next to the vacuum? And I go, that's a wrong I can't fix. And it's not even my problem to fix. It's yours.
Yeah,
how does that work,
Nathan
Ed?
didn't specify the vacuum. No, hold on, be quiet. He just said vacuum. He never specified 10 to the negative 17 minus torr or whatever. So that's why. And this is the first time he was specific, so I could actually answer it and debunk him at the same time with atmospheric law.
Atmosphere being the shape of gas, which gas has no inherent shape, and I've already debunked the very title of it. It's also a violation of natural law. So this claim that the gas wouldn't fill the space stands in direct contradiction of the second law of thermodynamics. And if you're in contradiction with the second law of thermodynamics, then you're in big trouble.
Yes.
And plus, he said that irrelevant force is keeping that atmosphere
Hold on.
in the shape.
Stop.
Yeah, you said
Yeah,
that.
so
There's no
Nathan-
such thing as atmospheric law.
Yeah. Let's let Ed get it all out of his system. Let's let him get it out.
He's talking about
Yeah,
ideal gas.
No, so listen, Nathan made a claim about the globe model again, so I'll ask again.
You're out of questions, bud.
God damn it. Yeah, I'm cutting out, sorry.
That's okay. Take
In
your time,
the
Ed.
globe model specifically, what's the pressure next to the vacuum? In the globe model specifically, Nathan. Not in your model, not in your ID. In the globe model.
How far next to it?
Okay, no worries. Can you show me the
Right
globe
next to
model, and then I'll tell you. Where do I find it? So I can cross-reference. Sorry, Ed, I haven't finished speaking. Ed, I haven't finished speaking. Now, I'm just going to preface this, bearing in mind that this isn't my religion. So it's understandable that I'm not going to have this at my fingertips, given it's not my argument. First of all, do you understand that it's reasonable I wouldn't have this at my fingertips? Because it's not my belief, it's yours. And given that it's not my belief and I wouldn't be expected reasonably to have this at my fingertips, can you point me in the direction of the model so I can have a look? Please.
If you don't... Why are
You're breaking up, Ed.
God damn it,
Breaking
my
up.
internet is fucked.
Oh, how convenient.
Quit blasphemy.
Where, yeah, I just want to know, where is the start of space in his model? Because no one can give me that.
Well, hold on. I've just asked him.
Just don't ask him more questions.
Hold on. We're going to check it for ourselves, aren't we? Because Ed's going to get us the model.
Better.
Yes. Can you get us the model so we can check it?
I thought you knew because you're making claims about it. So if you don't know, then why are you telling us shit about it, Nathan? You don't know anything about it, right?
No, I do. I know that the sky is claimed to be a vacuum, Ed. And then when you went and referenced your citation about atmospheric law, you also, in your citation, described it as a vacuum, something that you didn't want to concede. Now, given that I've described it as a vacuum, it's detailed as being 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum. And if it was a vacuum, the gas we breathe would be filling it. That's pretty much the sum total of what I dispute about what you think the sky is. And you're asking me what the gas pressure would be next to the vacuum, and I've answered. It would be 10 to the minus 17 torr at sea level. And you're saying, no, that's not what the model says. And I'm saying, well, it's not my model, and it wouldn't be reasonable to expect me to have that. But if you're saying your model has something different to say, tell me where I can check that. Where's your citation? And in this case, it's specifically, quote, from you, the model. So where is the model? Before you answer, not my model, your globe model that we're discussing. Not my belief, your fundy belief with sky vacuums. The gas isn't filling.
So question. Hold on. He asked me. Hold on. So when you made claims about the globe model just now, which model were you talking about, Nathan?
I said that they assume the sky is a vacuum. I didn't actually reference any model. I pointed at a picture and said that the fundamentalist religious belief is that this black area is a vacuum 10 to the minus 17 torr. Now, if you'd like me to get you a reference that says that the sky in your belief about what the heliocentric model does is a vacuum 10 to the minus 17 torr, I can back that. That is what you think the sky is. And I can back that, which I have stated factually correct. I can also back second law of thermodynamics, entropy increase, debunking the assertion that the sky is 10 to the minus 17 torr, as claimed by your side. Now you're saying, what model have you got that from? Well, I can just wiki sky vacuum or outer space and write the word torr, and it'll tell me 10 to the minus 17 torr, outer space. In a list of vacuums, it's the most powerful one. So vacuum, sky vacuum, your claim, definitely easy to verify. You're saying, well, what model have you got it from? I'm saying, well, given I'm not actually in a fundamentalist religious cult that believes we're on a sphere, it wouldn't be reasonable to expect I've got a model. And believe it or not, Ed, we've asked quite a few people to show us, quote, the model, and we never get one. So I'm now asking you that. Can you show us the model, Ed? Yours, not mine. I wouldn't have one. It's not my belief. But you seem to talk about it and ask me what I think about the model. I'm saying, well, I've got to admit, Ed, I haven't got one of a sphere. I wouldn't reasonably have one. I'm a flat earther. But maybe you've got one you can show us. Have you?
That's not what I asked. So my question was...
Yes.
Yeah, so no, because this is important. You're not answering what I asked. My question was, if I ask you what is the pressure next to the vacuum in the globe model, and you're telling me, well, it should be 10 to the minus 17 torr, which model did you get that information from? That it should be that?
Not from a model. No, that's not from a model. That's just natural law. That's just how gas behaves.
Oh, that's something you made up. Because I told you about...
think that I made up natural law? No, I didn't make up natural law, and it's strange that Rumpus also recently accused me of the exact same thing. So when I describe inviolable natural law, it's not Nathan's law. Heaven forbid. I mean, I'd be absolutely honoured if I'd come up with one of these laws to describe how gas behaves always. That would be expands into a vacuum. But it isn't my law, and it's definitely not made up, and that is not a model. Now, your model, pseudoscience model, your philosophy, doesn't sit in line with that natural law. And you're saying, well, what in the philosophy? It doesn't matter, mate. In reality, we'd be at 10 to the minus 17 torr. What your model says is irrelevant because we don't live on a model. Reality, though, is described by natural law, not by models.
Right, so you're making claims about a model of which you know nothing.
No, I'm making claims about reality. No. My claim's about reality, definitely not about a model, and we're yet to be given one, even though I asked for it. Is it unfair to ask for it? You're asking me to know better. Well, just give it me and I'll know better, won't I? But I'm talking about physical reality. Yeah, if the sky was a vacuum, in reality, then in reality, natural law, which governs reality in terms of how it's described, would dictate that the gas would fill that space. That's not as per any model, that's as per matter-of-fact reality. Nature abhors a vacuum. That's reality, mate, not a model.
Ed, what is atmospheric law? What's that? Can you
don't know. Well, he's denying
Nathan,
natural law.
I'm just curious.
No, I'll
why is it 5 people
globe
talking?
model.
Why 5 people talking? What's going on?
3 people talking at once.
Yeah, can you explain what is the atmospheric law?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I had a question for Nathan. So, Nathan, when I ask you then about the pressure next to the vacuum in the globe model, and you're telling me that's not possible, which law are you applying to that statement?
The second law of thermodynamics. It's called entropy increase. The free expansion into a volume that's available to a gas is described by the second law of thermodynamics.
So not gas laws then.
That's applicable to... No. Entropy law is applicable to gas, yes. Absolutely. You're saying it's not applicable to gas?
But you're ignoring the... No, well... Since we're talking about the globe model, you can't...
No, we're not. You're talking about the globe model. We're talking about reality. I just made that explicitly clear. You want to talk about a fantasy model we don't stand on. I want to talk about the reality of a sky vacuum taking away all the gas. Now, you want to talk about your fundy model and your philosophy, which is not reality. That's the second time I've said that. Maybe you want to tell us all about how we want to talk about a model? You're yet to give me. Let's have a look at this model if you want to talk about it. We want to have a look at it first. If we're going to talk about something, we need to see it. I'm talking about reality, however. Third time.
Yeah, so if you talk about the globe model specifically, which was the question I asked you, you can't just use any gas law. You have to use atmospheric law, which you're ignoring. So go ahead and study up on that, please, and then refine your argument.
No, that's fair enough, Ed. I get it. You're saying, if I'm going to talk about how mushrooms affect Mario in Mario World, then obviously I've got to work within the confines of that model of Mario World. And if I'm going to talk about the fantasy existence of a sphere Earth, I've got to talk within the fantasy constraints of the fantasy sphere Earth when I'm talking about your model that you believe in as a philosophy. I've got to do that. That's what you're saying. And I'm saying, you can suck my balls. I'm going to talk about reality. You can talk about whatever you like with your fantasy ball model that we're not standing on. That's what I'm saying.
Mark?
Right, so just keep that in mind. The next time you want to make claims about things we supposedly
do you have a globe model that you can show us?
Because you're just strawmanning us.
I'm strawmanning you because I point out that your model's a reification. We're not standing on it, and the model's in violation of natural law if you're to assert that that's how reality works. Your model has a second law of thermodynamics violation, and is therefore absolutely unequivocally not applicable to the reality we experience. Because in your model, you've got a sky vacuum. And if the sky was a vacuum, natural law dictates that the sky vacuum would be filled by the availability of volume of gas we have currently in your model as a gradient next to a vacuum. So no. Natural law, mate. Reality, not your stupid model. We don't live on a model. That's a reification fallacy. But you want me to be dictated to by you and your fundy belief in this model and tell me that I've got to work within the constraints of your belief about what the model does? Again, suck my balls, you fantasist twat. I live in reality. And natural law describes how gas behaves. The second law describes entropy increase. The gas would fill a vacuum if the sky was one. It isn't, even though your model says it isn't, describes it in violation of natural law.
No, it doesn't, because atmospheric law is still a thing. And the pressure...
Atmospheric law is your fundy model law. Sphere. You've got a sphere belief. You believe the air is in a sphere. Non-contained in a sphere. Absolutely absurd. Gas has no inherent shape. Fourth time I've told you. It takes the shape of its container. Now, if you're talking about physics and reality, that will be described and demonstrated to you. But if you're talking about your fundy belief in your model, you've got air as sphere shape. No, it takes the shape of its container. What's the container in your model? It doesn't have one. It's got a sky vacuum and availability of volume for gas to fill. So your model's stupid. I don't have to work within the constraints of your fundy belief I don't have to kowtow to your dictation that I've got to work within your model's parameters, which stand in violation of reality. Sorry, tough luck.
Oh, come on.
Nathan.
Oh, please.
Nathan, can I ask Ed one question, please?
Sorry,
Just,
come on.
just one.
So
Can I just ask
the
him one
question
question?
is,
Nathan,
if the gas
Ed.
takes the shape of the container, hold on. If the gas takes the shape of the container,
Then the gas would fill the space. That's right.
life. Yeah, so why is there a pressure gradient, Nathan?
That's got nothing to do with gas filling the space. I said 10 to the minus 17 torr at sea level. We'd have no gas. Didn't you listen? How many times have I said this? We wouldn't have a pressure at all. I said, and you ignored, 10 to the minus 17 at torr at sea level. If the sky was a vacuum, we'd be at the same exact state as that sky vacuum. We wouldn't have any gas at all. So where are you getting a gas pressure gradient from if we have no containment? Answer, you don't.
Answer, atmospheric laws.
Atmospheric law is part of your fundy model that we're not standing on, and your model has got gas in a sphere not contained, in violation of natural law. So it's not translatable to reality. Your model's just stupid. It's in violation of natural law, mate. How many times have I got to say this to you? Just because you work within the parameters of this stupid fantasy model and think that it's translatable to Earth that we actually stand on, when as per this picture, you've got high pressure gas not expanding into a vacuum. Well, no, mate. That makes this picture a cartoon of Earth in a sky vacuum. I'm not going to work within your fundy belief and parameters of your model. No.
Yeah, it's not reality.
Then why does the
just dismantle his
pressure
atmospheric law?
gradient in reality actually checks out with atmospheric law?
Atmospheric law's part of your third time's charm. Every time, why am I getting fundy muted? Why is this conversation being fundy muted on both sides by about 3 different people on each panel? What's going on? Can you not hear? We're obviously in a 2-way conversation, not a 7-way conversation, for everyone asking me continually if they can get a question in through his answers. Thank you. Your atmospheric law is an oxymoron. It's the 5th time I've told you. Repeat after me, Ed. Oxymoron. Not sphere, air, but shape of container.
If it takes the shape of the container,
yes,
then
it
how
does.
can there be a
yes,
gradient?
it does. Yes, it not if. Yes, it
now
does.
You're fundy muting me, Nathan.
No, I'm telling you, it's not an if statement. Now, you don't have to like it. It's not if it takes the shape of its container.
Then why is there a pressure gradient?
Sorry, so you would concede first and foremost that it would require a container to have gas pressure at all, because you don't seem to be conceding you're moving on to a red herring. So, no, pressure gradient also is unachievable without containment.
If the gas laws would apply to Earth, then the pressure would be equal everywhere. But
Sorry,
it's not. There's a gradient.
Sorry, did you say if gas law applies? Sorry, again, absurd.
Yeah, because there's
sorry, fundy muting me, Ed. Absurd. Sorry, if natural law applies. No, Ed, natural law applies.
Yeah, atmospheric law, I know.
No, that's part, no. Again, you're not listening, Ed. Atmo, air. Sphere, no, it's not sphere-shaped. It has no inherent shape. Round and round we go, Ed. So when you wouldn't concede the last time, we're back at the same position within 20 seconds because I've managed to shut everyone else up around us. Yeah, Ed, atmo, air. Sphere, a shape. It takes the shape of its container, Ed. We're back here again. Now, maybe at the end of this conversation, I'll preemptively strike me back by saying what? Pressure gradient? Yeah, so regardless of pressure or pressure gradient, containment's required, Ed, because air doesn't form the shape of a sphere. It takes the shape of its container, Ed. Now, how many times are we going to go around this circle? Do you concede that it takes the shape of its container, or that air in our reality conforms to a sphere as in your fundy model? Because it doesn't in reality.
So the shape of the container is a gradient?
So the shape of the container is what's required to have gas pressure, Ed. It doesn't automatically take the shape of a sphere as per your nonsensical law that's only applicable in a model we don't stand on. And you're saying if natural law applies, yeah, it does. if your model applies, no, it's in contradiction to those laws that apply in reality. And one of the contradictions is to assert that air is sphere-shaped. No, takes the shape of its container. We're still yet for you to say, yes, I understand that without the container, there's going to be no shape.
There isn't a shape, there's a gradient.
And the shape of this air is sphere-shaped, presupposed by this model, right? No, Ed. Air has no inherent shape, it takes the shape of its container. We're still on the same point. Round and round we go, fundies with a belief in a sphere.
But it doesn't... Yeah, but it doesn't have a shape. It's a gradient.
Well, then atmosphere would be an oxymoron, because it's asserting shape in that title of air. And you're fundy muting me, Ed. Eddie, fundy mute time. Sorry, so it doesn't have a shape. So to assert air sphere would be an oxymoron then, Ed. You would concede that then, given that you've said no shape.
No, because atmospheric law actually.
So back to atmospheric, that's sphere shaped then. So you do now contradict yourself. A moment ago, a moment ago you said no, air doesn't have a shape. Now you're back reasserting atmospheric sphere shaped air law. So you're going to talk about sphere shaped air law when you've conceded air has no shape.
The law explains the gradient.
The sphere shaped law. Gas doesn't have a shape, Ed. We're still here on the same point then. It seems that your zealotry's getting the better of you. It doesn't have a shape, Ed. Your sphere-shaped air law is nonsense. It doesn't have a sphere shape. But you're saying my sphere-shaped air law says... Well, it's nonsense, Ed. Needs a container to have a shape. Still here, same point. How long, Ed? 20 more minutes?
Then is the shape of the container a gradient?
So you accept that we would need a container to acquire a shape of that container for the gas inside the container needing containment to be a pressure. You understand that there must be containment, Ed. Maybe tell me about air sphere law.
Gradient.
Maybe tell me about sphere-shaped air law again. So containment's required, Ed.
No, I told you about a gradient, but you're funny muting.
Yeah, and I also covered that by saying that, yeah, you'd need gas pressure before you had gas pressure gradient, and you'd still need containment. It's not like having a gradient means you don't need containment, Ed. And gas has an inherent shape that's sphere-shaped in a gradient? No, same point applies. It doesn't have a natural sphere-shaped as per your sphere-air law. That would be atmosphere, atmo-air, sphere-shape law. So you're saying, according to my sphere-shaped air law, no, Ed. No, it has no inherent shape. We're still on the same point. Containment's required. So let's just go around this in circles for 20 minutes. So no shape unless we've got a container, Ed. So not ask me about gradients in a container, because we're going to concede first that we need containment. Not sphere-shaped air law, but containment for air to have a shape, Ed. How long? 20 minutes?
Not according to the law that explains the gradient.
What's that law called? Sphere-shaped air law?
Laws don't have a shape, it's just a name.
No, we know, but what's this law called? Is it called atmo? That's air. Sphere, that would be a shape that gas doesn't inherently have. Law, is that the law that you're talking about? There isn't a law that stands in violation of the second law of thermodynamics, because gas would fill the availability of volume, and yet this law says we can have gas next to a vacuum. Yeah, this law's a load of old horseshit, Ed. Contradiction in terms in the very title. Oxymoron. No sphere-shaped air takes the shape of its container, Ed. We yet can have a concession from you, because obviously conceding this would be to concede your fundamentalist sky vacuum belief that you haven't even really admitted to, because you're a weasel.
Then we're back to my original question, which was, what is the pressure next to the vacuum according to the globe model with atmospheric law?
So when we move into the fantasy world of your philosophy, that's not the world we live in, Ed. We don't live in your model. In reality, who cares what your model does? It's just a model, Ed. In Mario world, does gas have containment? Mario doesn't even need it, but it's not really relevant to reality, Ed, what the model says. So yeah, we can talk all day about the globe model or the Mario model, but we're not part of a model, Ed. And your model stands in violation of laws that actually govern the natural world that we experience. That would be reality. Your model isn't that, mate. So I don't really concern myself with what a sphere-shaped air law says in a model that we're not standing on. It matters not to me. We're yet to see this model either. You're not giving us so we can study it. It seems that it's a very secretive model that nobody actually has to show us. But nevertheless, even though we're not seeing this model, it's not being presented, it's not in conformation of natural law, Ed. Gas laws piss in the face of this model, making it irrelevant. If the sky was a vacuum as per your model, then the gas we breathe would fill it. The sky vacuum. So the sky isn't a vacuum, even though your model says it is. Very specifically, said vacuum, even though you denied it and wanted us to qualify what your model thinks the sky is in violation of natural law.
Yeah, so that's a claim about the globe model, and that means you must know about it, so answer my question. According to the globe model, what's the pressure next to the vacuum?
In fantasy world,
you're making claims about it that it stands in violation of natural law, so what's the answer to my question?
Yeah, it does.
So what's the answer to my question, Nathan?
Like, you can't qualify it. I can't give you an answer, Ed, because unfortunately your model makes no sense. It's got a wrong that cannot be righted, even by me. It's amazing. I mean, I can do a lot of stuff, but I can't write this wrong. You know, the fact that you've got a violation of natural law in your model, I can't correct that for you as much as you'd like me to. You know, you want me to say, well, yeah, we can have a very, very small amount of gas pressure that wants to expand in all directions into any space that it's got to fill, next to a space that it can fill. But I can't say that, Ed, because it's a contradiction in terms. And that's your model, a contradiction. You know, you can't have gas pressure next to vacuums because it just fills it. So you want me to describe your contradiction in your model? That can't be done. I'm really sorry, Ed. I know you wanted a lot higher from me. You wanted me to square this circle for you. But not even your own model can do that you're not showing us.
I could potentially do it.
Well, I told you already. Hold on. I told you already that it explains it with atmospheric law. So what's the answer to my question, Nathan?
What's your question?
Can you show it that?
Hello, what's your question? Based on sphere-shaped law.
My question was, according to the globe model, with atmospheric law, what's the gas pressure next to the vacuum? In the globe model with atmospheric law.
That contradicts atmospheric law.
We're going round and round in circles, Ed. I've already pointed out that this law cannot be squared because you've got a circle shape for your air. And when I do this, we go round and round in circles with you not conceding that to have a shape in the first place, as per your sphere-shaped air law, you've got a presupposition of sphere-shaped air. Well, what am I going to do? Say, I accept that sphere-shaped air is real to justify your contradiction in terms that violates natural law? No, I'm not going to do that for you, Ed. I mean, it'd be nice if you guys on your side actually gave some arguments for your model, rather than trying to get me to do it for half an hour. Why would you want me to justify a contradiction in terms that violates natural law in your model that we don't live on, when it's not my claim? I mean, this really is the most pathetic attempt ever. Well, you tell me how my model works. Well, your model doesn't work. It's a violation of natural law. We'd be at 10 to the minus 17 torr sea level if the sky was a vacuum because the gas would all fuck off. And you say, well, no, in the model where we assume that doesn't happen, what's the gas pressure next to the vacuum? And I go, that's a wrong I can't fix. And it's not even my problem to fix. It's yours.